Hello and welcome to The Hearing, our music review show here on the channel. I'm John.
And I'm Scotto.
And without any further ado, on to this week's album, which is Lady Soul by Aretha Franklin. Of course, this is a tribute episode. Aretha Franklin was an American singer-songwriter, and pianist. She began her career as a child singing gospel at New Bethel Baptist Church in Detroit, Michigan, where her father, C.L. Franklin, was minister. In 1960, at the age of 16, she embarked on a secular career, recording for Columbia Records, but achieving only modest success. After signing to Atlantic Records in 1966, Franklin achieved commercial success and acclaim with songs such as Respect, Chain of Fools, Think, You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman, I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You, and Say a Little Prayer. She passed away on August 16th, 2018 at 76. The cause was reported to be a pancreatic neuroendocrine tumor. Lady Soul is Aretha Franklin's 14th studio album. It was released on January 22nd, 1968 by Atlantic Records, produced by Jerry Wexler, and features Aretha Franklin on vocals, backing vocals, and piano, Roger Hawkins on drums, Eric Clapton, Bobby Womack, Joe South, and Jimmy Johnson on guitar.
It's ridiculous.
Tommy Cogswell on bass, Warren Smith on vibraphone, Spooner Oldham on piano, Fender Rhodes, and organ, Bernie Glow and Joe Newman and Melvin Lasty on trumpet, Tony Studd on trombone, King Curtis on saxophone, Frank West and Selden Powell on flute and tenor saxophone, Haywood Henry on baritone sax, and Carolyn Franklin on backing vocals. Reminder, I don't edit any songs into the videos for copyright reasons, but down in the description you'll find Lady Soul on Spotify and YouTube. Of course, you are encouraged to listen along with us.
With the intro, she really found her sound, of course, when she went down to Alabama and went if you ever see it, there's a great documentary on Netflix about Muscle Shoals.
Oh, okay.
And the Swampers down there.
This really does have I didn't know she worked with them, but this does have a Muscle Shoals feel.
That is where she found her sound.
Oh, yeah.
And did the album before this, I've Never Loved a Man the Way I Loved You, and Respect and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That came from working with those guys.
Atlantic, probably. Yeah, well, Muscle Shoals, I think they had a deal with Atlantic. So,
I think so too. And there was quite an insane story between her husband and them kind of nearly coming to blows. So it's worth watching.
On to track one, Chain of Fools, my favorite Aretha Franklin song.
Why we're doing this? Why we picked this one, right?
Well, that, and also because the album With Respect had a bit too long of a title to fit on our thumbnail. Just being honest, really long titles get tough to fit on there. I have to admit something a bit embarrassing about this song.
What?
I think the first time I heard it, it was the Little Caesar version.
Little Caesar version?
You don't remember Little Caesar's version of Chain of Fools?
No, I don't.
I actually revisited it before we recorded it. It's not bad. Little Caesar was a last wave hair metal band who did, right there with Jackal and Firehouse and Twixter, or Trickster. Twixter would have been much more interesting.
Edit this out. Don't admit this to anyone.
They were a last wave hair metal band. They covered Chain of Fools. It actually wasn't a bad cover, aside from this cringy little bit that was very 80s right before the guitar solo. Aside from that, they did a pretty good job with it. I'll link you to it after the show. I think it might be worth the playlist of unoriginality.
Of course, yeah.
The
playlist of unoriginality, it has many additions just from this album alone.
But I think that was my first exposure to this song, so it was great to finally, when I finally heard Aretha Franklin's version, it was, a revolution.
Well, right. I mean, it's only 68, and she's merging rock and gospel. Like, what the fuck is that?
And the song is deceptively simple. I looked it up because I figured after all these years I should learn to play the song.
Yeah.
It's got one chord in it, arguably.
Right.
C7, C minor 7, and then on the word fools, and for that little guitar lick, it's a C minor. So it's a C minor 7 to a C minor briefly. It's arguably one chord.
Right. It's a very
the entire song.
it's a very typical late '60s rock beat, you know.
And I really hate songs this simplistic, but I love this one because they
But
just make it work somehow.
and then so to lay this gospel on top of that was just it's like, wow, okay. I mean, I've heard this many times, but I mean, just kind of listening to it critically for the first time, and not just something on in the background or that just
Right.
comes on. It was just like, oh, I don't think I'd really noticed it that way
And
before.
it's not just rock. There's some great, it's not just, hard rock, so to speak, which is where it kind of lends itself to, especially with
Yeah.
that bridge. There's some great Leslie guitar work. Leslie's a rotating speaker. It gives it that kind of, vibrato
Okay.
sound. There's some great Leslie guitar work that really reminds me of CCR,
Yes.
Born in the Bayou.
Oh, that's a great call. Right. That's exactly what I mean. That is that late '60s rock.
It's got that nice swampy feel to it on a soul song. And I love how out front the bass is. Of course, I have to call that out. And the bridge, where it's just these stabs of just bass and drums on this vocal.
My only complaint
Brilliant.
about this song, though, it's too short.
Mhm.
I mean, it's in and out in like 2.5 minutes.
Well, given it's one chord, I think that works. It's better to keep it short and sweet.
I would I'd love a 10-minute version of this. You know, I
Mhm.
mean, it's more some solos in there and shit. I mean, the musicianship on this song
Oh yeah.
and the rest of the album
Well, we'll get to the musicianship
is
on one
jaw
particular song.
dropping. You
Yeah.
know,
If it is Muscle Shoals, I mean, they were some of the
I
best.
don't know if this was still Muscle Shoals. I think they had.
Okay.
I think they came to blows, and I don't think she came back after
Was
that
Booker
last.
T in the MG's Muscle Shoals?
What's that?
Was Booker T in the MG's Muscle Shoals?
No, they
Okay,
were
Stacks.
Memphis
They were Stacks.
Stacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I
So it
meant.
wasn't Steve Cropper and Duck Dunn. Okay, it was the other one. So it could have been because I'm not sure who played with Muscle Shoals offhand. One thing I have to give this song credit for on this album particularly, it is one of two songs on the album that are in mono.
Okay. Yeah, it does have a different sound to it, but it's recorded in mono.
Which is a pet peeve I have for the other 8 songs, which I'm only going to complain about once when we get to the next song, and I think we're ready to move on.
Yeah.
On to track 2, Money Won't Change You. This
So
all but Chain of Fools and You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman. Every other song is recorded in stereo,
yeah.
and the drums are on the right and the bass is on the left. I studied audio engineering. I get very picky about this. Unless there are 2 basses or you do something interesting with the drums, which they didn't do. It's just a normal 1-trap kit and 1 bass. Kick, snare, and bass got to be in the middle.
It reminds me of when I saw Ted Leo at he was playing an album. He said it's almost like hearing it at home in your headphones, except I guess we'd have to move the drummer all the way like to the left on the
Yeah.
that side off the stage.
What was he referring to?
Just the way they recorded the album.
This album we're reviewing or his
No,
album?
no,
One of his,
the
okay.
album they were playing.
Okay, one of his albums, yeah. Just I hate it when the kick, the snare, or the bass are panned. It's a pet peeve. But it's a great song aside from that. And I'm only going to complain about that once on this song because it applies to most of the rest of the album.
Of course, she had a lot of success, with her cover Otis Redding last album, and so she came back to try her hand with James here.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's good. It's just not as iconic as what she had with
of
Otis,
course.
of course.
If you want to talk 2 icons of R&B, you don't get better than James Brown and Aretha Franklin.
So yeah, now, and I think, I mean, one of the things I was surprised by this album was just how eclectic it is.
Yeah.
So I mean, now she's moved on to funk here.
Really love the call and response on the vocals. I mean, was kind of her thing.
Yeah.
But it really works on this. And there's basically a horn section solo.
Yeah.
Like the entire, not just one of them, the entire horn section plays a bit. That was really interesting. And some great band stabs on the bridge again. And in this case, it's the entire band. That's all I have for the song. It's hard to review one of her albums. I mean, this is a tribute album.
Yeah.
But what else can you say about her? But she was one of the greatest.
Yeah.
She was flawless. I mean, so I'm going to be talking about the music as usual, and it's R&B, so the lyrics aren't usually that interesting. Um, Speaking of which, on to track three. People get ready.
An impressions cover.
And the first time I heard this one, again, another one I heard from a cover, was the
I think,
Jeff Beck version.
yeah, Jeff Beck and Rod Stewart.
That was my first exposure to this song.
You
Look,
just knew it was an old song though
oh,
when they were
yeah,
doing it.
I knew
You
it
knew
was
that was not
that
the
was a
first
cover.
time they recorded.
Yeah, that was obviously a cover.
Even though it was the first time you ever heard it, you're like,
Yeah.
this is obviously something from the
And
'60s.
not nearly as embarrassing as admitting to Little Caesar. Although that was the only not embarrassing song on that album, as I
I was,
recall.
you know what? When you said Little Caesar, I thought like, did the pizza place
Oh
have
yeah,
Chain of
right. No,
Fools in their ad?
there was a dire metal band. Yeah. On back to People Get Ready, the Aretha version.
See, this is what I thought the entire album was going to be like.
Uh,
Honestly, I thought it was going to be this kind of
it's
gospel.
kind of classic gospel, organ and guitar, and some very sparse drums.
Yeah,
Nice, simple arrangement. And there's this lead guitar kind of meandering through it, which is something I think R&B forgot about.
it does. The whole song does kind of just meander. It is one of the
And,
weaker songs on the
and
album, I think.
there's this lead guitar that kind of filters through it. That's something Open Mike Eagle picked up
Yeah.
on the album we reviewed. He had that where there was just this kind of very simple guitar that went through the entire song.
The one thing that is really great about this album is the stuff that is very low in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get to that in later songs. There are
Um,
some if you're like listen long enough, you pick up like the most incredible things that they just kind of put low in the mix
yeah.
back there for ambient, you know.
One more comment on People Get Ready. Really, my only criticism of the album, aside from the mix, the vocal riffing at the end just got a little too much.
Yeah.
It's the only time where she does that cliche soul riffing.
Oh, right. It's kind of what I expected the entire album to be,
Yeah,
honestly. I
yeah.
was very surprised that this is pretty much the only example of it here.
Mhm.
I thought we were going to hear that a good like 8 times.
Yeah. On to track four, Nikki Hilke. This was a great pick me up after People Get Ready.
This
Because
is
it was
insane.
just a good 60s dance number with some ridiculous lyrics.
I have never heard this song before.
Same here.
Apparently, there's somebody who originally did this name PJ Proby.
Okay.
Or Proby. I'm not sure who the fuck that is, but he did it originally a couple years earlier. And it was covered also like by a number of people, including Bobby Gentry,
Mhm.
Ode to Billy Joe.
And this is a sound that has gotten kind of cliche 60s, cliche kind of early 60s dance song. But I had to remind myself, this is where it started.
Oh yeah, and this like the bass just fucking
I love
jumps
the
out
bass.
at you in this and beats you up. I mean, this bass playing is just fantastic.
Who was it again? Tommy Cogbill. I have to look up his credits because he was amazing. I mean, James Jamerson and Carol Kay get a lot of credit for being, the top studio players at this time.
Like he's
But,
practically
but
playing it like it's a lead.
yeah, he's on their level completely, and he
He's
doesn't
just
have nearly the
playing the
recognition.
bass like a lead, and he's just going off it. I was just like, wow.
And there's some great guitar work. I thought this was Clapton because I didn't know what song he played it on until
Yeah.
I did a little research.
Yeah.
Comes up later. I will have much to gush on
He's
about that.
so low in the mix, but yeah, enough of that for later.
On to track five, You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman. The other
One
one
more
that's
thing.
more.
Because Nikki Hoki is probably
Okay.
my favorite track on this,
All right,
actually.
continue then.
And lyrically, it's just insane too. I mean, from what I'm gathering, it is about. I guess it's from the viewpoint of like a middle class person or someone a little bit weller to do, and somebody lusting after a person who's down on their luck. You know, their whole family is kind of like,
Oh.
father in jail
Uh.
and other people in trouble and stuff, and what I'd like to do to you kind of thing. You know, and
okay.
yeah, and the gender has changed for
'Cause-
each person. PJ Proby is a guy, and then Nikki is a girl in the song.
Right.
And then Bobby Gentry did it, and Aretha here.
And
Nikki's a guy.
And Nikki is not gender specific in terms of how it sounds, but the spelling is female.
Right.
Niki.
And referring to them as a boogaboo. I mean, there's so much language in here, and of course, if it's way down It's got to be in Louisiana, right?
Uh-huh.
And I'm not sure about this also. Did Aretha come up with, is she the first one to do this? The busted?
She might have been.
Is that who the Beastie Boys are referencing in Fight for Your Right to Party? Your mom took away your best
Yeah,
sport of
yeah.
bags? Busted.
I mean, it's kind of along similar lines to some of the stuff James Brown was doing. It's, it fits the era.
I
But
don't
yeah,
I've
I
listened
wouldn't
to
be
a lot of
well,
James Brown and I've never heard him do a
not necessarily
busted.
busted like that, but it kind of fits a lot of his exclamations. It's similar
Well,
sort of
it
thing,
does. Well, James Brown, his
similar in style.
exclamations are a lot random and
Yeah,
like, what the fuck is he doing kind
saw
of
a
thing.
great, saw a
He's just
great
in his
meme about
own
that.
little world. But
Yeah,
I mean,
saw a great meme about that the other day.
but yeah, this is like, someone, is in jail, busted,
Yeah.
for so
But given who the Beastie Boys have overtly and admittedly referenced throughout their career, because it's kind of done now, I wouldn't be at all surprised if they were directly referencing Aretha.
so yeah, this gets
It's
my
uh,
favorite track of the album.
okay. Finally, on to track five. You make me feel like a natural woman. Another one that's mercifully in mono. And another absolute classic. I mean, this is one
Like
of her
what
signatures.
can we say about this
It's a
that has been
signature.
said already? I mean,
Um,
Carol King,
yeah,
it's just, I mean, we've heard this a gazillion times.
right.
If you're
Um,
compiling songs of the 20th century, you
yeah,
take this and respect.
exactly.
Uh, you
And
know,
it's a bit of a departure from a lot of the rest of the album because there are some strings and it's a much thicker arrangement. It's very Phil Spector.
yeah, it's a lot like James Brown is the man's world,
Yeah, yeah.
which is kind of odd considering the subject of, you
Well,
know,
but it's not Muscle Shoals,
no,
Southern Soul sort of thing. It's much more of a pop arrangement, which was different and perfectly fits the song. I don't think I don't think I say Muscle Shoals. I don't know if it was Muscle Shoals, but there's that kind of swampy sound that they had on the other songs would have worked on this song.
yeah, I don't think this was a Muscle Shoals album because, like I said, they had a
Yeah,
falling out
but
and
it's
she was
it's
not coming back.
okay, but
The husband was not, coming
it's a
back.
similarly swampy kind of sound on a lot of the album that I don't think would have worked on Natural Woman. Um, on to track six, Sweet Sweet Baby, Since You've Been Gone. Again, not much to say. It's a nice, solid mid-album track. Some nice sparse horns on the first verse, and even as they get more prominent, they don't overpower. They did some great things with horns on this album.
I mean,
You
I
know,
liked it. It's a straight up R&B pop
yeah.
song, and of course, she does it damn well.
And there's some nice piano riffing at the end, some nice little lead
Yeah,
piano. And I'm wondering if she played it because I've seen some clips since she passed away, and I had no idea she was actually a really accomplished piano player.
oh, I didn't know this.
And she was actually a really good piano player. So I'm wondering if she was playing that piano at the end. Beyond that, not really a whole lot to say about it. And now, without further ado, on to track seven. Good to me as I am to you. Blew my fucking mind. This is the track that Clapton played on.
Yeah,
And it's just this great blues song, another favorite of mine.
he's so
Um,
low in the mix, though.
but there is a moment at the end where there is a call and response between Aretha Franklin's voice and Eric Clapton's guitar that just listening to it on Spotify ranked as one of the greatest moments of my life.
I
I
mean,
have
what's funny is though I'm listening to it, and I was like, for the first time, I don't know how many times I'm listening into it. I'm like, wow, that guitar playing. Who the fuck is playing the guitar in this? I'm like, all right, I gotta look it up. Eric Clapton.
I read about it earlier because I wanted to see what specifically he played on, if it was the entire album or one song or whatever. He was in Cream at the time. He was 22.
Yeah.
And Atlantic, because they were on it, Atlantic or sub of Atlantic, I think, they brought him in to play on the one song. And I have to explain, I started playing guitar because of Clapton.
Oh wow.
He was the guy who got me to start playing guitar. He was my absolute hero for many years. I know his playing. He can play two notes. I know it's him. I know exactly how he played. So, I thought he was on an earlier track. This one, there was no doubt. I knew this was
Yeah.
Clapton. And but the person contributing this week, the vocal dynamics were amazing. because
Oh
she
yeah,
could
of
have just built.
course.
This is a blues song. She could have just belted it, and
Yeah.
she definitely does belt in the song, but she plays some of it very softly. And that I think this is what really set her apart from a lot of R&B singers, particularly of her era, and even going forward. She understood dynamics. A lot of R&B singers just belt.
Oh, of course. But yeah, this whole album's about dynamics. I mean, this whole album isn't just putting your foot down to like blast forward. Like I said, there's so many things layered in this. Like just way more than really expected. I expected a very straightforward album, and just to
Yeah.
have so many things like in the background were just mind blowing.
I how have I gone this long without knowing that there is a song that features Clapton and Aretha Franklin? On to track 8, "Come Back Baby." Um, Another seemingly kind of cliche arrangement and groove. It's very early '60s
Yeah,
dance.
yeah,
Um,
she does another. It's
yeah,
more pop. Yeah,
more of a pop song. Another great pick me up after a ballad. There's some nice subtle farfisa, which is a brand of organ that has a very unique sound to it.
right.
Nice another horn section solo. Not much else to say about it. Just a nice mid album track.
But then you put that bass in there.
Oh yeah, yeah. Tommy Cogbill, gotta
Buy
look
a
him up.
ticket for that bass, because holy
Yeah,
shit,
I
that's some
mean,
good bass playing.
I'm gonna say there are three reasons to listen to this album. Number one is obviously Aretha. Number two is Clapton on that one song, and number three is Tommy Cogbill on bass. He is as much as an important part of the album as Aretha's voice to me. Granted, I'm a bass player.
Yeah,
On to track 9, Groovin'. Another change of pace. Kind of a country feel on this one.
and it's a Young Rascals cover, of course.
Yeah.
Um,
That's the
probably
band. I could not think of their name.
probably the weakest on the album, I would
Yeah.
put.
Kind of ahead of its time because it has a bit of a '70s feel to it. I honestly thought that song was from the '70s.
Yeah,
Um, they change up the mix a little bit. The background vocals are on the left, the lead guitar's on the right. They're normally the other way around.
and
Um,
there's a weird Mama and Papa's reference in there when it's like a Sunday afternoon. They do the background singers do Sunday Sunday.
uh, and there's actually a proper guitar solo. I mean,
Yeah,
Clapton kind of noodled all over the song beautifully, but this has a
right.
proper separate guitar solo, which is nice. On to track 10, the final track, "Ain't No Way." And I should say final track of the original album. There's like
Yeah,
on the version we reviewed, there's like 4 bonus tracks we didn't bother with. You normally don't do bonus tracks.
right.
Track 10, "Ain't No Way." Ending on a ballad was an interesting touch. I'm
Written
sure.
by her little sister.
Oh, really? Okay. Didn't
Yeah,
look through you guys. This is another one that has that heavily produced, thick Phil Spector-ish kind of
right.
sound. I think a simpler arrangement on this would have been better. This is one I would have liked to have heard the swampy sound on.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the one thing that catches your attention, of course, and it's really faint, but it's there, are the backing vocals.
See the kind of riffing backing vocal you're talking about?
This insane operatic
Yeah, I
high.
wasn't really into that.
I was just like, who the fuck
Well,
is
that's
like?
Aretha. I've heard her sing Ave Maria. She could sing anything she wanted.
I
Um,
looked it up. It's not Aretha.
God.
It is
Oh.
somebody by the name of Sissy Houston,
Oh.
as in Whitney's mom.
Yeah. She wasn't in the credits. Wikipedia fucked up again.
That
Um,
is her singing.
okay. I figured it was Aretha because she could do anything she wanted, but all right.
But yeah, she brings in another female vocalist to
Uh-huh.
to sing with her, and yeah,
I mean, if you get to pick
I
one.
yeah, I could
But
I mean, the whole thing
that,
was haunting. I thought,
but that
the
didn't do it for me. It
and to
felt a
keep
little,
it in that low in the mix, just kind
yes.
of in the background, where you're just like, what is that?
The only other note I have is I really like the horn stabs on the chorus. It's a nice
Yeah,
staccato with the horns. One of my favorite lead vocals on the album, even though, along with Good to Me, even though I didn't care for that background bit, kind of operatic thing. So I think this is kind of pointless to ask, but
I need to get into the rest of her
yeah,
catalog.
absolutely. We both
I
strenuously recommend this, I'm sure.
kicked myself for not like just going and seeing her live, at
Mhm.
any of the festivals, that she's played around here so many times.
I think it's probably an issue with our generation because we were after her heyday and we knew songs here and there. We'd heard Respect and, the thing from the Blues Brothers and that, the hits, Natural Woman, Chain of Fools.
They
But
became cliches, in some, because they
yeah,
were so overused.
right, exactly. And the problem is we were too familiar with them.
Yeah.
And then she did in our time did the thing with George Michael and there had that Who's Zooming Who, a horrible pop album she did in the 80s. So we didn't get the best view of Aretha, So
Probably,
we
but
weren't inclined to really do the deep dive
yeah,
until I honestly hadn't heard much of her catalog aside from the hits until now, and I really need to look into her early stuff because
definitely. Yeah.
I did not understand. No, I did not see this coming. Anyway, that's it for Lady Soul by Aretha Franklin. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe if you haven't. Until next time, we'll be reviewing Final Boss by MC Frontalot, which is what we were going to do this week. This is a big departure, big change of pace.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting after Aretha. We will have to, try to come into this with fresh ears. I think anything we would do next, we'd have to try to come into with fresh ears and not, compare it. Anyway, that's it for this. Until next time, always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life,
There you are.
are.